I want to start off with acknowledging exactly why you're here and would ask that you share a little bit about Justin, how old he was when he passed away, how long it's been for you, and then something that we do in all of our retreats to kind of get to know one another. And that's 5 words to describe him.
Um, my son's name was Justin, and he was 7 years and 4 months old when he passed away. He had late infantile Batten disease. If I had to describe him in 5 words, he was loving. He was really cuddly from a baby on, really cuddly. Um, I would call him joyful. Even his little voice always had a little sing-song bell-like thing to it, which is why we called him Jaybird. He was stubborn, which his father always said determined, but he was very stubborn. He was funny, and I think he was very smart. Every parent might say that, but he was saying lots and lots of words by the end of, 2 years, and seemed to be able to distinguish when people were being funny, when they weren't. I think he was smart.
I'm sure he was. Any lesson or experience that's impacted you in the long term? And that can be Ohana Oasis or just in general over the last 7 years.
Um, well, with Ohana Oasis, the lasting thing was probably, we didn't talk about it a ton in our class, but in one of the videos that was done prior to the class where you explained what was going on, you talked about putting pen to paper, actually setting a time that you write, not editing, just sitting down and writing. And we did it for 2 or 3 lessons for different things. Once was, I think, a letter. Another time was feelings we were having, things like that. I have tried to journal ever since I lost Justin. So the whole pen to paper, 10 minutes, pen to paper, 20 minutes, basically just write, no matter how sloppy it gets, no matter whether you want to go back and re-say it another way, just keep going and then put the pen down when you're over. I've actually even used that with work stuff since you guys did that. It has just been so good for me because I tend to overthink everything. So to get my gut reaction on paper, intent to write, it's really been a good lesson for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. It's actually the same for me. Like it's really easy to get into the weeds of something. And so where it's just, okay, just flow, let it go. You discover some interesting things, huh? What's been the most surprising thing to you in your journey through loss and grief and embracing life?
Um, the most surprising is how fully it affects absolutely every aspect of your life. I mean, I knew I was going to be sad. I am one of those situations where we knew our son was going to die. It was a terminal disease. You would think you might be a little prepared for it. Not at all. And no idea just the depth of it and the rawness, just how much it really, really hurts. How heavy the burden of grief really feels. That truly surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to be so all-consuming.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned from that?
Probably to be kind to yourself. I tend to like to be in control of situations, letting things just be, letting go of that, and being okay with it. Because, yeah, it's not that I care whether people think I'm all right or not. I don't care about that, but just being okay with how big it. I don't being okay with maybe how big it is. You can't control grief, and I am not really used to that. I was a single mom for years with my older son, and then Justin, because of the type of disease he had, you kind of had everything organized and controlled, and grief is so not organized. It is just, it's like, it's like a tornado goes through your life, and then as soon as you settle it back down, a big wave comes through your life, and it's so, just when I think, not that just when I think things have settled down, they maybe haven't. and the randomness of what hits you. Because the further you get into it, it may not be near as raw. Like at the first couple of years, sometimes I was crying and didn't realize I was crying, just doing things. So it may not be so raw, but then, stupid leaf flutters over here, or a specific kind of car goes by, and it's not even as predictable as, oh, your favorite song or the cartoon that came on. It's sometimes just so random, the thing that happens, that it hits you like a piano fell on you. I mean, it's just, that has been something I've probably struggled the most with, and have learned that it continues.
Are there things that you found that help you when you do get those sidewinders of grief that hit you?
Yeah, I think what helps me, sometimes for more than a minute, but sometimes just to allow myself to wallow. That is the one thing, is to just be okay with it. And one of the is in one of my questions here. Another one of the favorite things that I've learned was the be right back. To just take the time to do it. Give yourself that, and then when you're done, you're done. I mean, not that cut and dry, black and white. I didn't mean that to sound flippant, but it's kind of like, I need this right now, or tomorrow from this time to this time, I'm going to do it, and give yourself that. I feel like it takes some pressure off when it happens.
Yeah. How about a blessing? And I know that, losing a child is devastating and tragic, but there's also good things that can come out of tragedy. So can you think of a blessing?
Um, this one was a really hard one for me to answer because of that. Because I could say the angel parents I've met, because they have been a blessing in my life. But when I say that, I would rather have never met them and my child be alive. So they haven't been that big of a blessing in my life. But I would say they have mainly they've been a blessing because there's someone to commiserate and you feel like you're not alone. My biggest blessing might be just that I feel like I'm not scared of anything now. The worst thing that I can ever imagine pretty much has happened to me. And I don't really get bogged down with little things. That can be good and bad, because sometimes little things where I should maybe have more empathy, I'm like, really? My kid died. So, but the biggest blessing might be that, and really being appreciative. I found that was, I like with nature and stuff, I feel like I see and feel more of the small things, some of that stuff.
That's great. I think those are wonderful blessings. What are some ways that you continue to honor Justin, both in the day-to-day, everyday life, and then if you have things that you do for anniversaries or birthdays or special occasions or whatever?
Okay. For Justin's death anniversary, we did not celebrate. We did try to plan an event for that for a little bit, and then I started feeling like that was kind of a downer to me. I still have that day is kind of my wallow day, or do something specific to Justin. I don't work, but I've stopped doing anything for his anniversary of his death. For the first 5 years, we did something, and it always had to do with light, fire, which was beautiful. It really was. But I found that I didn't want to celebrate that day. I really didn't. So, but we do celebrate his birthday big every year. His father and I choose an adventure we think he would have loved, and we try to make it age appropriate for how old he would have been that year. And we take some of his ashes with us for those adventures, and put a little bit of his ashes, typically unique spots during those
Wow,
adventures.
I've never heard anything like that. That's very unique. And what's even more unique is that you guys are no longer together, and yet you still come together for that.
For his birthday, we swore we would always celebrate his birthday. So we do. Sometimes it's just a 1-day thing. Most of the time, it's a 2 or 3-day thing. We've
Wow.
climbed a couple 14ers and put his ashes on top of them, and we've taken some beautiful hikes. the first year we went to Disney because it was like his favorite place in the world, and I know it's illegal, but put some of his ashes at his favorite rides. And last year he was turning 16, so we figured, what else do you do on a 16th birthday but get in a car with a 16-year-old and get in a car and be terrified. So we went race car driving.
I love that. That's so creative.
When Justin was after he had stopped walking or was struggling with walking, we started him in horseback riding therapy. And so I'm still on the board of directors of the Stablesbury Road, and we do fundraisers and raise money for the children whose insurance doesn't cover that type of therapy. And the foundation is Justin's Riding Partners. And so we raise some money for that and try to make sure that no kid gets left behind if that's the kind of therapy that could help them. And then for me, long term, something I've been doing every year, we got Justin's diagnosis before he had any symptoms other than seizures. We made a promise to each other that we would be sad later and we would live every single day, cram as much life, joy, fun, because we knew eventually he wasn't going to be able to walk. Eventually he wasn't going to be able to see. We didn't know how long his life would be, but we knew we had a year and a half, 2 years just to cram a whole bunch in. So both Dad and I took quite a bit of time off work, and we had tons of adventure. I feel like I owe it to him to continue living. Yeah. I try to do 10 new things a year. They're not all crazy wild, but I try 10 new things a year and try to keep track of that. And I usually take a little bit of him on each of my 10 things too. But I feel like he was never old enough to say, I want my ashes scattered here. Right. So I'd like him to have as many adventures as possible. And I feel like I honor him through continuing to have adventures.
What is something that you wish someone had told you at the beginning of your journey?
Just that there will be floundering. That is very all-consuming. You don't realize how much it is. I mean, you forget things. For me, I was paralyzed with it. It really paralyzed me. I wish someone maybe had told me how big it is. Because I think before you go through it, you think you're just going to be sad, like when Grandma died. And I'm not belittling that, but I just think you think you're going to be a little sad here and there, and then eventually you're not sad. And that's really not what it is. And I think a lot of us never deal with grief like this because the only people we have lost by the time we're older are grandparents, and it happens in an order. But I don't think anyone prepares you that it's not sad, plan a funeral. I think because even people looking at me, they see me, I work now, I do things, I go on my adventures. I don't think anybody realized how big of a hole is left there.
How all-encompassing.
How all-encompassing.
Do you think that had somebody told you, is there any way they could have articulated it in a way that you would have understood before actually being in it?
No. But I think they could have explained that it will affect so many parts of your life. And be nice to yourself, and don't expect much from yourself, and be okay with what you're able to do. Like, I just saw a meme going around a couple days ago that really meant a lot to me, and it was like, just because I could do it yesterday doesn't mean I can do it today. Just because I can't do it today doesn't mean I can't do it tomorrow. It's not something that you fix. It's not something that you overcome. Yeah. It's not something that you get over. The first time I laughed in public and someone said, "Oh, it's good to see you back to normal," I wanted to choke them for that. I wanted to choke them. I mean, it made me feel horrible. So I don't know, just that it's okay. You're okay. Whatever you're feeling, it's okay.
And I think that you touched on something there. You never do go back to your old normal.
Never. And it's not even a new normal. There's just nothing normal about it.
Do you have advice that you would give to a grieving parent?
Just more or less be kind and patience to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Ask for what you need. Don't be scared to ask for what you need. If you're not comfortable asking, at least don't feel guilty about doing what you need for yourself. Because I think a lot of people don't do what they need because they want other people to not feel uncomfortable. Therefore, they don't do what they necessarily need. And I think being really kind to yourself, and with that, I don't mean just giving yourself time and stuff, but doing what you need. And if you're not willing to ask other people for it, at least do it for yourself.
I think
Like if it's time alone, you don't have to go out and be with people. If it's not talking about your kid, then it's not talking about your kid. If it is talking about your kid, and then be with people who will allow that.
Yeah. So speaking about talking about your kid, how have you in situations where you're meeting new people or they don't know and you get the awkward questions, how do you broach that?
Well, it depends on what type of group situation I'm in and how well I know the people. I do always say I have two children. I never just say I have one. If they ask more questions and I talk about him, the truth is, especially with people I don't know, if they ask me questions, I talk about Justin. I answer the questions as if he's alive. I don't lie about anything, but when they start asking things like how old is he, then I say flat out, I've got one son this age and I've got another son that I lost in 2012. There are times that I spend a half hour, 45 minutes with people and never tell them my child died because maybe I got comfortable enough with them or I feel like it's just not the right situation that they would care. I didn't used to be able to do that. That is something that has come over a little bit of time. Someone that I know I'm going to have a relationship with, that it's more than just small talk. I bring it up pretty upfront because I would rather know right away how they respond to that. And if there's going to be a second, third, fourth meeting, I don't want to explain later on why I didn't tell them right up front. So,
And so what's one thing that you would like to share with people about losing a child that they don't know?
it is, I think that it's not like any other loss because every stage, like I said, last year we celebrated my kid's 16th birthday, and you every you, I guess every loss changes your life, but I think a loss of your child maybe changes your life, especially if they were still in the growing up ages, because every year you would have been doing something different with them, watching them. I at the beginning I very much worried, and it sounds so unrealistic because I know he was dead, but I worried if he was scared because 7-year-olds aren't supposed to be without their mom and dad. I think losing a child is different than any other loss. Any other loss. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I don't know what to say to the parents other than I think it's normal that there's it's not the way life's supposed to be. They're not supposed to go before us. Therefore, I don't think there is a rule book. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking your time. I don't think there's anything wrong with rushing it. Everybody grieves a little differently. There's not a right or wrong. What works for you, whatever makes you feel a little better, as long as you're not hurting somebody else, I feel like there's no right or wrong or rules to it.